All right, well, I'll call this meeting to order. Are you ready, Heather? I combined ready and Heather. I said, are you rather, Heather? Sorry about that. All right. Looks like first on the agenda is introductions before the consent agenda. That's you, Nate.
Yeah, I'll let each one of the interns, I know everybody I think has met Aram, but if not, I'll ask him to also just quickly introduce himself. But you can see in the agenda kind of the focuses of their work, each one, and that's going to be changing and evolving to the things that come about. Um, but yeah, Ruby, why don't you quickly share a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Ruby. Um, I'm a Ball State student. I just finished my second year urban planning, and I'm going to be working with like the economics and then also with the 812 coalition.
Zach?
Uh,
Hi, I'm Zachary Gullion. I'm also a Ball State student, urban planning and development, with a real estate minor. I just finished my second year. I'm gonna be working with the industry neighborhood and doing some GIS work for Nate.
Hannah?
Hi, my name is Hannah. I'm a senior in the Ball State Urban Planning Department, and I have a minor in studio art. And I'm going to be working on the graphic design aspects for the land bank.
nice.
And Ram, you can.
Yeah, and I'm Aram, the GA. I'm going to be continuing over the summer as an intern, and I'm going to continue my responsibilities working with the A&D committee, handling acquisition and disposition.
Right. Did you want to say anything else, Nate?
No, yeah, so yeah, we're either going to be working between 15, 40 hours. Some of that depends on funding. We're working on getting some additional funding. But I'm pleased with how all four have kind of dug in, and I feel like we can make good use of their skill set and their enthusiasm. So excited to have them on board.
That's great. Did any of you know about the neighborhood cleanups that are happening? I just noticed that you're working with different neighborhoods. I work for the Muncie Sanitary District, and we're doing 4 more this tomorrow. And the Old West End is one. I know one of them is for the West End. So that's a great opportunity to meet neighbors, neighborhood leaders. We did industry last Saturday.
Are those all the a set time, Jason, or depending on each neighborhood?
Yeah, 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And I could find out where the Old West End is meeting. They might be meeting at Clifton Wallace Park.
Yeah, the cleanup meet at Clifton Wallace Park on Charles.
Okay. So yeah, if anyone was interested in participating in that one, they probably meet a little bit before 8. And you just ride around with trash trucks or walk the neighborhood, pick up piles, stuff like that. So.
Yeah, the information's on the excuse me, on the neighborhood Facebook page. I can't go tomorrow because my kids have soccer games, but there's usually a lot of people there.
Yeah, there's 4 tomorrow. It's East Central neighborhood, Old West End, Morningside, then Thomas Park, actually.
Thomas Park, yeah.
812.
Yeah.
812 encompasses Thomas Park, right? Yeah. So just want to throw that out there. It's a good opportunity to meet people.
And I think the Thomas Park Avondale is meeting at the Ross Center at 7:45.
Great. Awesome. Thanks for all that extra info. Well, welcome. Thank you for your help. We'll move into the consent agenda. So on that consent agenda is consideration of the minutes from the April 2024 board meeting and our monthly financial statement. I'll entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda as presented.
Move to approve.
All right, Jim moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Annette. Is there any discussion or questions related to that? All right, I'll do a roll call. Heather,
Yes.
Annette,
Yes.
Rebecca? Yes.
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Is anyone on that's not on video?
No.
All right, consent agenda passes. Thank you. We'll move into voting items, dispositions.
So this is, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 recommendations that were made by the A&D committee meeting or committee. The number 3 is one that we didn't take up. I forgot to add it to the agenda, but that's a property that owner has wanted to donate to the Muncie Land Bank, and that's all. Papers are all signed and everything. It's just a matter of taking to the county, get it transferred, recorded if the board approves. But so I don't know. We can work through each one of these, and Ahmed is the one, or Aram is the one who was most involved in having conversations with people and getting this ready. So he can talk to anything, or we can just approve in bulk or whatever y'all think.
Heather, in the past, have we had to approve each individual item?
We've sort of done it both ways. It's fine.
Okay. Is there any other specific notes or discussion, Aram, that we need to add to any of these specific So it looks like the A&D committee has quite a few recommendations here. Is there anything else you'd like to add for any of those?
Not in terms of the acceptances, but we did have, I did want to add something about like one of the rejected bids that we had. It was for the 1913 North Garnet Avenue. So we had 2 other additional bids for 2 of the other 411 East half 8th Street. And then I believe 1308 South Monroe. Felicia Jones, who's a business owner from Indianapolis, ended up bidding on those. Her bids ended up getting rejected, mostly because of the fact that during the entire process, me and Nate tried to coordinate with her, and it's when it came to trying to get development plans from her, a lot of times she kind of treated the land bank as kind of an obstacle rather than something that was a tool that she needed in order to acquire those lots in the process. So I brought it up to the committee is like, what are ways that we can kind of prevent, business owners who kind of have all these innovative plans from kind of brushing us off. And I just kind of wanted to see if there was any sort of baseline requirement that we can set. That way buyers are a little bit more clear on what our process looks like. And that's kind of the main thing. Yeah.
Not to butt in here if anybody wants to say anything, but this is something we can talk about, Ram. You and I, we can take it up with the A&D committee. I mean, I think these are things that we have policy and we have things written out. So it's just a matter of directing you to those if you have questions.
Yeah. In terms of
Can I clarify?
Yeah.
Sorry, just really quick for the notes. So I'm looking at property 1, which is 1913 North Garnet, that
Yes.
you received 2 additional bids that were rejected because you didn't receive the development plans in a timely manner. Is that correct?
Timely manner, and then on top of that, they just weren't clear. Essentially, the plans that we received just didn't follow the guidelines. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which is something that happens often around. Like we have that often happen where we have to say no to people, and sometimes their bid is contingent on getting us new information, but in this case, it was just kind of, yeah, but that happens often, so you know. And we don't have to necessarily bring that to the board meeting. Board meeting is just basically approve what the A&D committee has made recommendations on if there's questions about those approvals or about those recommendations.
Nate, too, I think that I'm sure as you guys discuss this at A&D, it's really important to make sure the policy is really clear. And you treat everybody the same way. And if you make exceptions, that you have documented why you kind of, worked more with this person versus that person, just to make sure that, no issues that way.
Is 1913 does it have a structure on it? 1913.
No, it's a vacant lot, and the Austin Springman at his primary residence is contiguous to that property.
Yeah, he's right next door. He's just purchasing it as a side lot.
Oh, great. Okay. Is there any other questions related to the recommendation from the A&D committee? Welcome, Brad.
Good morning. Sorry I'm late, everyone.
That's okay. We let you have one a year.
Do we need a motion to approve all these then?
Yes, please.
I'll make them.
I need to abstain from the Howard lot because I am the president of owner. So I don't know if we need to do that separately or if I abstain from the whole thing. I don't know.
Okay. Which one's that?
Item 3. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we probably could do that. So I could entertain a motion for approval of items 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6.
I'll make that motion.
All right, thank you, Jim. Is there a second?
I will second.
All right, I'll do a roll call. Annette?
Yes.
Brad?
Yay.
Heather?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Yes.
And I'm an I.
Just quick question. Hannah, Rebecca, did you second that?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Thank you.
Motion by Jim, second by Rebecca. All were in favor. And then I'll entertain a motion to approve item 3.
Move to approve.
Motion by Jim. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Annette. Do another roll call. Annette?
Yes.
Brad?
Aye.
Heather?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Rebecca?
Abstain.
An abstention by Rebecca. Jason votes yes. All
I
right.
apologize. I must not be hearing well today. Who seconded that one? I got Jim as the
Annette.
motion. Annette, thank you.
Yep. And an abstention by Rebecca on that last vote. All right, we'll move into other. Looks like this is Nate's item, approval executive committee's recommendation to approve Nate's proposal for land bank support of EB family health insurance.
Yeah, this is something that I had brought up, I think in the March board meeting, and the recommendation was to be taken up by the exec committee. Then with Juliet, we looked at a bunch of different options for health insurance. And you can see kind of the summary of the plan, overview of the plan in box if you want to look at it, but it's roughly $551 per month. The exec committee approved that proposal. And so it's bringing it to the board for that to be approved again. And I don't know if, and then the next little item underneath that, I had mentioned this, and did not bring it to the exec committee because I didn't have, because we were still getting bills and it was still in the middle of pregnancy stuff. And again, there's not an expectation. So if this is something that we don't feel great about, no worries. But yeah, we've accumulated over $1,100 in health costs for Juliet related to her pregnancy. She had been on, because of her residency status. So in Indiana, she's a resident. But in Indiana, you have to be here as a resident for 5 years to be able then to get Medicare. And so she was, for the pregnancy, was just on emergency insurance. So that would just cover labor and delivery, which is wonderful. But there were also, a lot of like prenatal stuff that happened. So anyways, I don't know if we want to consider these separately. If there's any questions.
So the exec committee had discussed this and the math came out on the item to be 6617 a year, 6,617 a year. It moved our payroll expense from 59,425 to 66,042, and we all thought that was reasonable in order to, have a director and continue on. We had also while we never really approved of the item A, we had discussed about the potential to use unrestricted funds to cover some of these wild costs that might come out of this incident. And I'm pretty sure that, I don't remember what those numbers, and we didn't approve it, but I know that it was, we were expecting something else, not 1,100. That was lower. That's the amount he's asking for is way lower than I think any of us had discussed in that meeting. And I don't quite remember what that number was, but yeah, I'm just putting that out there. Are there any questions for it? We have over $100,000 unrestricted funds to be able to cover.
Brad, remind me why we didn't entertain insurance from the start. I don't recall.
Jim, I think honestly, it's been an ongoing sort of discussion, but it is so cumbersome to research that it really fell on Nate's shoulders to figure out what made the most sense, because I think this has been a conversation that we've been having for years. We just couldn't figure out what would work, and Nate has done that for us.
So the point I'm making, had we been able to get out there earlier, all this would have been taken care of. Okay.
Yeah. If we would have been able to identify this in the beginning of the budget cycle, sure. I think part of it is too, this is him by us supplementing the purchase on like market, right? So like, we're not a large enough organization to be able to offer some type of actual package. And that's also part of the elusiveness of the cost of it when trying to budget for it.
And just, so I had been, when I got back from Columbia, I actually got the Indiana HIP, which was great. And then my 2-year-old, she was on CHIP, and so we were actually covered. And then we got kicked off in April because of the increase in my income, and so we were kind of in this flux of, okay, what do we do? And so we decided to wait till after Juliet's emergency insurance, labor and delivery, because that would have been kind of confusing, kicking her off and then trying to get on before pregnancy, and there was some risks that we didn't want to take. So here we are now. We don't have insurance, and so this is why this came about right now for us.
So again, do we approve these separately or together?
The motion could be made either way.
I just have a quick question. I would like to make sure that this is covered for Nate, but like how are you doing it? Are you doing it like, I assume that we don't have like health savings account that we can just put money in for him and he pulls it out that way? Are you just gonna write him like a check that's he's gonna be taxed on? Like, what's the best way to get this to him so that he has that full amount taken care of?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. I don't know that that's actually mapped out.
I don't.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I was going to do it, it would be adding, I don't know, and maybe having to approve, but adding a new line in the budget that's for health insurance costs. And then we just set that up so that it's kind of basically an additional miscellaneous debit. So it just happens monthly. And so it's not something that I'm taxed on. And then for the additional cost, same kind of thing. Where basically I'm just cut a check to cover those health costs, and it'd be something that we add into the budget. That's maybe not what. Yeah, I could talk about it with the accountant too.
Right. Okay. So I think that we need to find the best way to explore this to limit any kind of exposure, like the way it happens. So I think talking to our accountant would be the best solution to determine how to best get I'm really thinking of the cost in that item more than, I think you're right with the first item. Sorry here. The Elite Gold and Better, I think that's a line item that gets added into our budget, right? But I think the additional payback expense, we need to explore the method in which to deliver it. I'm fine with approving it. We just need to explore it and use like probably legals or our accountants, sorry, recommendation on that.
Okay. So do we want to look for a motion to approve item B pending discussion with our accountant on the payback cost?
Yeah. So moved.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to motion to approve the acquisition of family health insurance for the executive director, dependent on a conversation with the accountant.
Well, that's mainly related to the payback of the previous insurance costs.
Okay,
Just to talk to our accountant about the best way to do it.
What if I did it this way, Heather? What if I rescind my motion and I say this? I'll make a motion to add the Elite Gold and Better to our annual budget for the executive director's compensation, benefits, and then I'll, and as well to approve the $1,151.28 payback pending our accountant's recommendation on delivery. Is that better and more concise?
Yes. I think it is. Second.
All right, there's a motion by Brad, second by Annette. Do you have all that, Heather? I know Brad kind of got cut out.
Are there any other questions or discussions? Yeah.
All right, let's do a roll call vote. Brad,
Aye.
Annette,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Heather.
yes.
I vote yes. All right, motion passes.
Thank you,
moving
everyone.
on- Thank you, Nate. Moving on to items of general discussion. Acquisition and Disposition Committee update. Is that Brad and Nate?
We can fly through this. This is just something that was asked to be included from month to month. And And while the Ball Brothers, again, 75K now, we've spent over 70,000. So we have, roughly $4,000 left for any other acquisitions in our target area in the Old West End. And that amount includes the money we've invested in cleanup. So those properties are in a lot better shape now since we've cleaned them up inside out. And they look much better. And then, the next item, mentioned this a couple of times. This is something that I've been working on with Annette, and then also Matt Wayans, the GC that we've been working with. So we have this HARP funding from Community Foundation, and we've got a house and we've got a plan, and so we're going to be able to soon say we've followed through on this first pilot for this HARP partnership with Pathstone.
Right. Do we currently have any properties with the structure in our online auction?
And nothing at auction. We have 4 properties in our Old West End development site that are properties with structures, and then we have, I think it's another 7 or 8 that are the tax certificates that we're in the process of getting converted into deeds right now.
Okay. Is the website auction site still working pretty good for our needs?
Yeah, I mean, we're down to what are we down to, Rem? 4 properties?
It's 4 lots, yeah.
4 lots. We have, we still have a handful of properties that we're holding for a couple of different we're holding for a specific entity. We have 3 or 4 for Ross Community Center. We have 2 that, because of legal stuff, we basically have to hold for till the middle of next year until certain things fall off, and then we can offer them to the public. But yeah, we're down to the, what's the skin pickings?
So also part of the if you all remember, the auction is really kind of, we didn't really have an idea for the property or end user. And so those properties kind of just are there for folks to pick through. And our last 2 large acquisitions of properties have been target based. We've either had a developer targeted already, an end user, or we're doing this Old West End development project, right? So part of the issue with, or part of the reason for like slim pickings, if you will, is the lack of getting kind of general and properties, tax delinquent lots and whatnot, which we kind of all started with, and those BEP lots, of course. Nate, I have a question about kind of the funky number that remains out of the Ball Brothers. Like that's not, we've pretty much done our acquisition for the private side with that money.
Yeah.
And there's less than 5,000, and that's not really acquisitionable. What happens here with this?
Well, I mean, we do have till November to use that funding. We could try to be real. Yeah, we could try to use it just for acquisition. I think that the Ball Brothers is fine. We can use it for other things related to those properties, for the mowing, for property insurance, those kinds of things.
Oh, good. I was wondering. I just want to make sure. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the programs committee. Nate, you want to give us a First Friday update?
Yeah, we had Dr. Breedy from Ball State's Urban Planning Department come in and talk about Community Land Trust. He did a great job. It was a great presentation. And I've had 3 or 4 people call me as kind of that were there interested in learning more about Community Land Trust as a tool for affordable housing development. It's, yeah, that was a good meeting, well attended. And then we have June meeting, Dr. Fran Quigley. I don't know if anybody's heard of him, but he's kind of a known housing activist who's going to come and speak about, I think, kind of like housing as a human right. I can, yeah. So that's Friday, first Friday. Mhm.
Brad, do you want to, says Old West End Comprehensive Development Project, you want to update us on that?
We've decided to start meeting with all representatives of all the entities that are involved in the project, and we had our first meeting back in April. The idea is to coordinate and not duplicate unnecessary actions that are will happen and to happen inside the development. Our next meeting is going to be, you can see in the agenda set for May. We'll be kind of breaking out like the ideas of site control and overall project control. And then more and more folks will be kind of chiming in with, here's how we act and here's how we'll be acting throughout the project kind of idea. So that way when someone, and like, for example, like, we're building housing and we have some folks that are from Ball State that are going to participate in a solar decathlon to build housing. And that could be a housing unit that's used as a new build inside the development. So part of that comes right with like what kind of house you build. So instead of having multiple entities perform, let's say, a housing study generically, maybe one performs some type of market study and people can piggyback along it with the development. So things like that. That's just an example. That's not the primary, but it's just an example of the roles that we wanted to dole out and make clear. I don't think there's anything else going on. We're just waiting on those properties to get transferred to us.
Great. Nate, it has you for an update on industry, Urban Light CDC, Habitat for Humanity partnership.
Just so everybody's kind of aware, we've talked a lot about our Old West End development project partnership. We have something similar starting in industry, working with Urban Light CDC, Habitat for Humanity. Same thing where we're trying to acquire properties, for site control. We use the students from last semester class to go out and do some really great surveying and mapping. There's an entity out of Atlanta that's consulting Urban Light that's done this kind of work. And they were here a week and a half ago for visits with the board, visit with residents, visit with stakeholders like the land bank. So anyways, that's something that's building. And actually with Habitat, the 10 properties that we acquired as tax certificates are already being integrated into a proposal for infill that they're trying to get money for. So anyways, just that's something that we're going to continue to talk a lot about going forward, building this partnership in industry neighborhood.
Okay. Moving on to fundraising and development committee. Is there a new proposal for Lilly Endowment Capstone MLB partnership? Yeah, it's not entirely clear like who we're submitting this to and how it's going to be evaluated, but it's something that I've talked a lot with Trevor Friederberg from ECIRP about. He's invited us to give him another proposal that he thinks would be relevant to the Lilly funding that was added to Ready or connected to the Ready funding. And so you're welcome to take a look at that. That's just kind of an overview of what we're thinking. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about that? There's more information in the box.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add about the Ready 2.0 committee?
We did a walkthrough a while ago with the Ball Brothers Foundation. Heather came out, Rebecca came out, and we're doing that with who we've understood to be the committee or that's connected to the Ready funding allocation process. So that's, Tracy Lutton, Elizabeth Roray, Trevor Friederberg, and they're coming out May 29th at 2 p.m. We're going to meet at the yard, and then just take them through, talk about all the property that we've acquired for this Old West End comprehensive development project. And anybody's welcome to join for that from the board. Just the more the merrier. I can send out an invite, and so if anybody wants to join, welcome to.
Yeah, that I'd be interested. The yard is Eco Rehab.
Yeah.
Acorns.
Yeah.
Brad, we have you down for an update on potential collaboration with George and Francis Ball Foundation to apply for Choice Neighborhoods Planning.
Yeah, we were invited to a preliminary meeting with George and Francis Ball Foundation and the Muncie Housing Authority to discuss Choice Neighborhoods. Choice Neighborhoods, the HUD funding. It's two-pronged. It's an implementation and a planning. One's a planning grant, one's an implementation grant. We were discussing a planning grant. They had gotten wind of the Choice Neighborhoods George and Francis Ball had by being part of the Thrive Network, and they thought it was a good fit. And they actually reached out to some folks and they pointed them in our direction. So I've been working around and trying to get the city to apply for a Choice grant since about 2014 or 15. That's what we just had an applicant start if it was going to work, you know, if everyone was on board. I think the update from that was waiting on the housing authorities board to decide and their talk with their own PHA representative. So they would be the primary applicant in that case, and we would be working maybe to find a way to do a development project and hold properties and help in the process. So very preliminary. The application's due June 10th, so it's an annual kind of a grant that comes out of HUD. So
I just to add to that, I did some research on that as well, because I was kind of working with Habitat to see if it was possible to do that in industry neighborhood. And it is focused on a severely distressed HUD funded project. So there isn't one in industry apparently. Yeah. But the only one that actually applies, I guess, for the city of Muncie would be Gillespie Towers.
Nope,
so,
not necessarily. We discovered that if it's designated senior and disabled only, then it has to include another public housing property as
you're
well.
Right.
So but the thing is, I've been working around this for about a decade, and sometime about like in 2018, residents and some folks had told me the designation for that tower had changed. So that's part of waiting on the discussion with their PHA rep to really see if it's still designated in that manner. Otherwise, we need to probably take a year to plan it out.
Sure.
If that makes sense. So yeah, no, we had that.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean, it has to be designated as severely distressed, and it has a special designation form that has to be done by like an architect, which if we don't have that for anything, then we can't even apply by June 10th.
Yeah.
And that went to my question. You said something about senior housing, so the two aren't the same then, right? Is that what you're trying to explain? It can't be one or it can't be senior housing and distressed, or either or.
If the HUD assisted or public housing units are distressed but are designated as disabled and senior, then you have to include another HUD assisted property or PHA. And the problem with that is that the city and Muncie Housing Authority really, for like an attempt to try to blanket cover and not concentrate, right? Public HUD assisted housing has put these housing places kind of across the city. So it's hard to like include two of them into a neighborhood project, right? If you think of like Earthstone or what's the one, I think it's called South Terrace. Oh, I can't remember. It's the one that's off like Old 67.
Southern Pines.
There you go, Southern
Is that
Pines.
what you're thinking about?
Yes, Southern, yeah. So I think I think that, you know, it's a bit of a challenge, but we're just gonna wait on their PHA rep. Their PHA rep should be able to tell us if that's a fit better than us reading the NOFA and trying to figure it out ourselves.
All right, is there any other comments or questions? All right, next we have Hannah with the CEA grant for high impact practices. Did you know you're on the agenda,
I
Hannah?
threw you in there, Hannah. You want to speak? I can. It's not, it's just the kind of the practice of including you guys as you guys are connected to certain things.
I would appreciate if you spoke for me for this one time.
Sure.
I'll join in the next time.
Yeah, no problem. It's just, it's a grant that we were sent a message from the Office of Community Engagement about. That's something that we can apply for, connects Ball State and kind of student work, professor work. And so anyways, Hannah's asking for some funding that will connect to the studio that I'm going to be teaching in the fall with third year planning students.
All right.
Wait, did you say that came out of my office at Ball State?
It came from Kelly.
Okay. Okay.
She
Cool.
sent an email and we followed up.
All right, moving on to outreach, marketing, communications. Nate, you presented to a group, morning coffee group, it looks like.
Yeah, I just you know, we're out there. It was kind of funny. It's a place where Rebecca is connected to. If anybody hasn't been out there, it's an interesting place. It's Bill Lett's new coffee bar brewery spot, and a lot of movers and shakers there. Anyways, I thought I was just going to sit in, and I was called up in front of everybody to present. So, but there were some important people there, so it's an opportunity to always make our pitch. And then yeah, we're just to throw in there as similar as we're doing with Old West End in industry. We're also trying to lay the foundation for a new partnership in Whiteley. The students have done some mapping from last semester. We've acquired we have some properties, some tax certificates that we acquired from the county in Whiteley. I just had a conversation with Becky Moon from the building commissioner's office in Muncie. There's a lady that wants to donate 11 properties to us in Whiteley. So anyways, we're working to build the partnership, the relationship, and get property. And I'm going to be presenting at the next neighborhood association meeting. Anybody's welcome to come, but just letting you know that we're always out and about.
Sounds great. Yeah, and great job on posting all of that on social media.
That was Hannah. She was there.
Good work. Yeah, because it's like being in a board meeting. You know, you're getting a lot of updates via social media, and that's really important. And if possible, make sure we can translate that over to our website as well for people who are on social media. But great job on that. Governance and Governmental Relations Committee. We have a Brad Keene update on conversation with county about MLB serving Delaware County and the creation of interlocal agreement to receive property.
I don't remember what our update was last month, but we had been discussing, you know, with the county on how to serve the rest of the county as a land bank or how they could generate a land bank. And so after an internal committee between, I think, John and Nate and Jeb and I, Jeb from Intend Indiana, we came up with the best idea was to use a state passage that allows for interlocal agreements between two governing bodies to create a land bank. And by doing that, we could potentially create a partnership between the county and the city to allow the county to use us as a land bank. I wrote a interlocal agreement draft to that effect. Intend Indiana has reviewed it, and they've signed off on it with one minor comment, which we addressed in a conversation, I think, just last week. So from our side, we think we've narrowed down the options. and we potentially have a tool. However, it's a complicated situation of like two different bodies that have to come to that agreement, and we're just kind of a mitigator of that, or a, you know, agent between for that discussion. And so we're really at this point where we need to figure out who needs to sit down as representatives from each body to have this discussion.
Okay. Any questions? Heather, we have you down for city council member training that happened on April 30th.
Sure. We met at Magix. A number of you all were there. Thank you for attending. And I think it was a really good discussion. I think we had 5 city council members, which is awesome. Honestly, more than I had anticipated. So yeah, I think it was a good first step in reaching out to city council and just helping them to understand who the MLB is. And Nate, one thing as a follow-up, would you be willing to write thank you cards?
Yes.
It's been on my to-do list and I haven't done
Sure.
it.
Yeah.
But if you write them, you can just take them to the clerk's office, first floor, City Hall, and they will put them right in their mailboxes.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd like to add, for those who were there, I thought Heather and John did a wonderful job communicating and providing a lot of information in a short period of time. A couple of those council members I've spoken with have appreciated having that opportunity. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I echo that. It definitely started some really good conversations I've even had with council members. Great job on that. Update on conversations with MRC, Nate.
This
Monkey
has been
Beach Valley Commission, I'm sorry.
ongoing for a long time. And this is something that Brad and John have helped a great deal with. We submitted kind of a one-pager. You can read it there in box if you're interested. You know, our partnership with MRC, the funding that we've gotten from the MRC ended in January. We were invited to submit a new proposal. Had a lot of like kind of conversations outside of the commission to try to get a feel for what support they're willing to give us. Anyways, we kind of formally presented it at yesterday's meeting, and there was some discussion, and the follow-up is going to be a meeting, hopefully with some representation from the commission and the director, Jeff Howe, to come up with some kind of proposal that then would be hopefully taken up at the next MRC meeting. Maybe that's ambitious, but that's what the hope is. And we're hoping that it's money, property, and yeah, you can see that what we're asking, our ideal scenario, which is probably even less than ideal, is asking for $150,000. So that kind of sets the bar up here for us, and we'll see how close we can get to that.
And Nate, that's $150,000 annually, correct?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So because this potential working group, if I may, will be ironing this out before the hopefully June MRC meeting, and the June MRC meeting will occur prior to our meeting. I think that it might be the way it happens. It might be a month off is all I'm saying. They might end up going, well, we want to make sure your board approves prior to our approval or something. And so I think what will more than likely happen between this meeting and June is Nate and John and I will probably review whatever comes out of the working group to try to make either whatever needs to be out of that, a recommendation, so and so that hopefully it'll make it more as streamlined as possible. Does that make sense? Since we've kind of been working on this, it's like negotiating between two bodies who only meet once a month, right? So I just want to throw that out there.
So Brad, you're saying that you, John, and Nate will meet and review what comes out of the MRC meeting, and present that to the Muncie Land Bank for approval at our June meeting.
Yeah, I'm hoping that working, I'll keep calling it a working group for a minute, that the working group between MRC and the MLB will will iron out this funding proposal into something that we can either counter or, set up for a recommendation for the body. This is something we can review in a necessary time. We're hoping to be able to do that for the next meeting, but because of the timing, and we won't know what MRC does until they meet and do it, we might be in July before we approve this. Is all I'm trying to say. We're going to try to act as fast as possible. We've been working all year on this.
Okay.
Nate, would you concur with that?
Yeah, I mean, unless we wanted to have a extraordinary kind of quick meeting to have it voted on so that we could expedite it at the next meeting. But that's, I mean, we've been really slow on this. I don't think waiting an extra month is a big deal.
Yeah, I think we could, if necessary, we could try to call a special meeting.
Yeah.
And if not, we'll just continue on with that extra month. So thanks, Nate.
We have on here update on city strategic planning retreat.
I just wanted to bring this to y'all's attention. We were sent an invitation to, I guess there's a meeting at Pokagon State Park with city, political people, employees, and from city council, we were invited. And I said that I would bring this to the board if anybody wants to represent the land bank at this planning retreat. That could probably happen, or I could just kind of submit some information like, please be mindful of these things and maybe raise them in the appropriate space during the retreat.
If we were invited to a city strategic planning retreat, we should go.
Yeah.
How'd you read that, Heather? Yeah.
I didn't read it that we were actually invited to go. I read it as, and so I got an invitation as well, not invitation, but I got a notice as the MAP board president that, and it came from City Council District 2, that if we have ideas or thoughts that should be presented, that individual will be willing to facilitate that for us. But prior to the retreat, because they're not going to the retreat. So
it wasn't that we were invited to that specific public part of the meeting.
I don't know. Maybe I missed that. I guess I didn't see anything where it said there was a public part of the meeting. Maybe I'm wrong.
I see City Muncie Council and City of Muncie Administration department heads, but I mean,
okay, I'm sorry for.
That's the first I've heard of MSD. So I would think that we would be involved in some capacity, but
you weren't invited. I'm so sorry.
That definitely wasn't invited. Sounds nice though.
Yeah. Well, so what I did for MAP is I just reminded, I asked City Council District 2 to remind everyone at the retreat that the community created a strategic investment plan back in 2021, and to be cognizant of that as they are creating a strategic thought for our community, that our community already voiced their opinions, and that was just kind of take that into their thought process. So yeah, so Nate, I don't know. What's that, Brad?
Thank you for doing that. Everyone, send your representative an email that echoes what she just said. For real, there's already a plan on the shelf. If you're going to come up with a plan, it should be about executing or implementing that plan.
Heather, in the email that I got, it did say, this will be a public meeting, so you are free to attend in Angola if you choose. I don't know, maybe that's just kind of, you can stand outside and hold signs up or, um,
Yeah,
Yeah.
based on everybody that's invited, it should be a public meeting, right?
Maybe we could investigate that.
okay, yeah,
I
Yeah,
just want
like-
to go to the pool party.
Send messages to your city council people and to any department heads you might know. Nate, I really liked that one page that was in the box about the funding that we need.
yeah,
You know, I think that that is a good thing to present to city council, to District 2, so they can present, and also to anyone else who came to our city council meeting. Hey, next steps. You understand what the MLB is now, I hope. So, you know, please consider this as a funding, like a byline into the funding in the future. And I don't know, please forgive me that I don't remember, but I don't know if our annual report is going to be ready by then. But if it was, that could be something that could also be sent in just as a
mhm,
evidence of the work that we've done.
mhm. That's a good recommendation, yeah.
Great. I think that's it on the agenda. We're at the portion of our meeting for privilege of the floor. Anyone have anything else they would like to add? I was going to give a shout out to Annette Phillips. I saw that you won the John Niederman Rural Development Leadership Award.
Oh,
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do. Anyone else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn right at 10 o'clock.
So moved.
All right. Second.
Second.
Woohoo. All in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Hi,
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
you too.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.